lives. Oh, let me just make the, or maybe it's okay. Yeah. Shall I clean the lens of the smartphone? Apologize, guys. Let me just do it. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if it was needed or not. So, philosophy, and more specifically, practical philosophy. Why philosophy matters, especially the practical one. So, the term philosophy means love of wisdom. Philo is a Greek word. Maybe you heard of philia, yeah? Paraphilia, bibliophile, or some negative words like pedophile, necrophile, etc., etc. So philia is a form of love. You could say one of the physical forms of love. Yeah, and Sophia means wisdom. So philo, Sophia is the love of wisdom. And in my private online course entitled Introduction to Practical Philosophy, I actually break down the three main components of wisdom. What is wisdom actually? And how do you obtain it? How do you attain to a state of wisdom? What three most important components of wisdom are? So if you're interested in that, I encourage you to send me a message, write a comment. I'll send you the link. You can purchase the online course. Right now, I don't want to make this live too long because the course is about 4 hours, approximately 4 hours long. Several lessons. So I won't, be able to cover all of that in one live. And now I'd like to actually cover the five main components of philosophy. Again, very briefly in the course, it's done longer, yeah, and show you why philosophy is important, what you can extract from it. Okay, so the first component of philosophy is about nature. So it contains the word physis. The word physics comes from this root. Yeah, physis means nature, or like nature, not only the nature on planet Earth, but physical nature. Yes, physical things. So it's called metaphysics. The first component of philosophy is called metaphysics. Meta is like beyond, yeah, above. So at first, the term meant something a little different, beyond the physical, yeah, or supernatural. But now in philosophy, when you say metaphysics, it's about the physical reality. It's about the principles, the laws that govern our physical reality, motion and energy and mass, how physical reality works. So that's the first component of philosophy, metaphysics. And why is it practical? What can be practical about it? So, the question of faith and the creation of the cosmos, yeah, the universe. Do you believe in a supernatural being or not? See, this is a metaphysical question. Okay, so was the universe created by a super powerful being, or was there a big bang? Or also, if you just take the scientific path, what actually exploded? What were the causes of explosion? And if it's causeless, again, you could say that the theory is not very powerful. And this affects your daily decisions in the following way. Suppose you are a believer and you believe that the stories in the Bible, in the Quran, in some other scriptures are correct and true. You believe that one day God got angry at Sodom and Gomorrah, and God destroyed those cities. Or you believe that because men are wicked, someday God will get angry and the judgment day will come, people will be killed, etc., etc. So those metaphysical questions affect your thinking. And of course, they will affect your decisions. What decisions will you make if you believe in such things? And um, I don't know how believers would put this, but I would state, as a non believer, I would state that those thoughts are pretty fear based. It's concern, it's fear, yeah, the fear of punishment. Of course, in our daily lives, we are afraid of being punished by law, and so that keeps us away from committing crimes. So, fear is also practical. But imagine, apart from those real things that, if you kill someone, you get punished and you can get killed too. You also start guiding your life and your choices on more fear-based concepts. Like if I, in the comfort of my bedroom, if I masturbate, then God, Jesus can see me and can get angry, for example. Yeah. Or if I do not help the poor and all the poor, yeah, whoever that poor person is, God may get angry with me and I could contribute to the judgment day and our planet will be destroyed because of my actions, yeah. Or if we accept gay marriages, then America or the planet will be destroyed. So those metaphysical questions, is there a God or no? And if yes, what type of God is that God is? Kind or loving, embracing, accepting, or revengeful, angry, etc., etc. Those questions affect your daily life and daily choices. So metaphysics, that branch of philosophy, is important for you to better understand why you are afraid of certain things, so to explore your fears, and why you make this or that decision, to understand the root causes of your motivation or lack of it. If you want to go somewhere and you're afraid, like, I don't know, maybe again, if we take the topic of sexuality, you are bisexual or curious and you want to attend some place, but you're also afraid that, oh, God might punish me, yeah, or my church fellow churchmen may see me and or learn about it, and you know it may have negative consequences for you. Then again, it means your metaphysics limits your choices, and it guides you and it creates some obstacles and opportunities for you. Yeah. So metaphysics and understanding your own metaphysical mental reality, what you believe in, is pretty important for your daily choices. So that was, yes, with sexuality. Maybe I could bring another example to make this even clearer. Yeah, do we live in some sort of matrix? Is reality fake or not? This is a very, metaphysical question as well. The essence, the structure of our reality. Is reality real or is it fake? This is a very fundamental metaphysical question, actually. Yeah. And based on your answer, reality is real, so everything matters. Or reality is fake, nothing matters. Whatever I do is just uh, irrelevant, useless. So based on those answers, of course, you will choose, specific pathways, and you will make your decisions in different ways. For instance, me, I believe, or I don't like the word believing. I conclude based on some mental experiments that my mind and my body are real. Yeah, I can feel it. There is this I who speaks and this I who can feel and understand. So instead of belief, I choose axioms. Axiomatically, I can make experiments with myself, with other humans, and prove to myself that uh, I exist, my body exists, etc. So, and as I conclude that my body is real, I am real, and this material reality is real, yeah, even though it can be different things to different beings, yeah, cats and mosquitoes may see this object in a different way. In some parallel reality, maybe matter works in a totally different way. That's something else. Still interesting, but something else. So I value my body. I value my mind. I value my life because everything is real for me. And I want to get the most out of my physical experience, yeah, physical existence. Someone who says, well, everything is fake, this world is dark, and it's the valley of tears, as it says in the Bible, or I'm trapped in a matrix, people are fake, everything is fake, just like Neo, I need to wake up, then how can I value my body, my mind, my reality, people around me, I was there, mentally at some point, maybe when I was 16 years old, approximately 15, 16, on the influence of some movies like The Truman Show and the Matrix. Yeah, I was convinced that, I was trapped too. And it became almost obsessive, and I would sometimes talk to the hidden cameras, on the walls of my bedroom. So I went to that extreme, and it's not a good place to be in when when you doubt everything. You doubt that your mother is your mother, your family is real, whatever you do matters. So those metaphysical questions are important to consciously think around and shape your answers in a conscious way, or else you may mentally end up in some very dark places. Some people can get a way out from those dark places, others may not be able to do that. So that was the first component of philosophy, metaphysics, reality. Yes, the nature of reality. Is reality real or not? How reality works. Yeah. The second component of philosophy is about knowledge. And we use the Greek term episteme, which means knowledge, to talk about this second component of philosophy. And the second branch of philosophy is called epistemology. Okay. So epistemology is about knowledge. Like, how do you know? When you say, yeah, reality is real, or no, reality isn't real, how do you know? Where where are your answers coming from? Where do you take your knowledge from? Reliable what is a reliable source of knowledge and what isn't? And based on your metaphysics, you will actually create or tailor or forge your epistemology. For instance, if I say God created reality, then my source of knowledge is the book that God wrote for me. Yeah. So my epistemology can be religious if my metaphysics is religious. Yeah. And I can just put all my faith and trust in one book or a collection of books. Yeah. And say that, okay, those books, that's the real deal. Whatever is said in those books is real, etc. And on the other hand, if I am not religious, if I say, well, axioms are there, yes, science helps me navigate my reality, then my epistemology will be more scientific, and it will not revolve around one or a small group of books, yeah, and I will be able to, explain and analyze, etc. But reality is more colorful than just, religion versus science. And sometimes it's, in some religious traditions, they also embrace science. So it shouldn't be like either or, yeah? We have different ways of thinking about life and reality, and mystical thinking is another way of thinking. So someone may not be religious, but their thinking may be mystical, yeah, and kind of nihilistic, like nothing is real, nothing is true, the same matrix thing that we create reality with our observation, yeah, quantum and quantum mechanics and the famous double slit or fence experiment. So there are many avenues mentally, also from the perspective of epistemology, from the perspective of knowledge, like what is reliable source of knowledge for you? How do you make your daily decisions? Like right now, I drink a cup of cocoa drink. Now it's 7 p.m. in Los Angeles, and I chose to drink this drink instead of coffee. Yeah, this is a philosophical choice as well. See, because my body is real, I take care of my body, and I know that this or that action will be either bad or good for my body. Actually, bad and good, evil and good, that's the third component of philosophy, ethics. Yeah. But speaking of the second one, epistemology or knowledge, you should be aware that you have epistemology, whether you know this word or not, whether you understand how philosophy works or not. But you draw some knowledge from some things, and if you don't do it consciously, then your thought process and your choices might be of lower quality. Some people, yeah, they may say, okay, the Quran or the Bible or the Bhagavad Gita or whatever, this is the source of knowledge. Others may be like, Darwin, and Darwin is the only source of knowledge. Some people who think they think scientifically, they also may have those dogmatic thinking, and they could choose one or a few books and be like, okay, Dawkins and Darwin and Hitchens, those are, the valid sources of knowledge. The rest is just BS. Yeah. So you can be dogmatic and narrow-minded, even if you're an atheist. Okay. So this question is much bigger, and it's not just, faith versus reason. Okay, it's wider, and it's not just black and white, it's more colorful. Now the third component, ethics, yeah, it comes from another Greek word, ethos. So what is good and what is bad for you? Yeah, and when we say ethical, the word ethical comes from the same root, yeah, ethos. It's literally, it means morality. Yeah, we could be translated as morality. So your ethics directly comes from your metaphysics and from your epistemology, or from your perception of reality and from your sources of knowledge. Again, because this example is easy, I'll kind of polarize. And I'll start with the religious type of thinking. Okay, so reality. God created everything. How do I know this? The Bible says so. And what is good and what is wrong? So whatever God wants me to do is good. Whatever God is against is bad. That's the religious thinking, okay? And that's one ethical path, yeah? So when you define everything based on some scriptures, yeah? The Quran says this and therefore, if we go deeper into this, lots of problems arise. For instance, some people adore, some conservative Christians adore the Old Testament, and they will be criticizing LGBT people, homosexuality, transgenderness. They'll be like, oh, it's against God, and Leviticus says this, or the story of Sodom and Gomorrah. But then, in lots of cases, they disregard the Old Testament. They can be like, oh, but that's the Old Testament. We don't really care about it anymore because there's the new one. But still, when it comes to gay marriage or homosexuality, they can hypocritically quote the same Old Testament, right? And even in terms of your personal ethics, what's right, what's wrong. In the Bible, for instance, there are some dated or weird quotes and ideas and limitations. Like you cannot eat some animals, which includes or may include shrimps or animals like that, yeah, or pork. And you can wear some type of clothing when two or more types of fabrics are involved in producing your clothes. You should be stoned for wearing that clothing according to the Old Testament. So the problem of religious ethics is contradiction. And that's a huge problem. In the New Testament, in one place, Jesus says, I came to bring peace. In another passage, Jesus says, I came to bring sword. Or the famous 10 Testaments. Abraham comes down, he brings those tablets with the testaments, and one of the testaments says, Thou shalt not kill. Then what does Abraham order people that gather to listen to him? Take your swords, go from the one end to the camp to the other end, and kill your fathers and mothers and brethren, those who worship the golden idol. And his tablet says, Thou shalt not kill. Isn't that murder? It reminds me of a quote by Victor Hugo, if I'm not mistaken, and it went something like this. Murder is murder, whether committed by a murderer or by a king. It's not a direct quote, but yeah, the idea is like murder is murder. Sometimes you have to maybe kill, like you're a soldier and the neighboring country tries to destroy you, like Russia-Ukraine situation. And if you're a Ukrainian soldier, of course you have to kill the Russian aggressors, yeah, to save yourself and your compatriots, your countrymen. But still, that's murder, yeah? And in the Old Testament, you have those things, and in religious tradition, you have those things. Of course, in some cases, in law, it can also be, yes, one law can state one thing, and then a new law can be created that would kind of contradict or go against one existing law. But the thing is that when it comes to secular things and scientific things, those traditions and worldviews are more open to criticism and change. Yeah, we have amendments, we have regulation and deregulation. Yeah, so when it comes to religion, things are much more conservative. Of course, change also happens in religion. Yeah, we have reformators, we have branches and religious traditions that are more open to change. But fundamentally, faith is about, this is true and that's it. Even if I don't understand it, it's my problem. Yeah. And if I don't understand the contradiction, then my brain is too small, or I need to pray harder. Yeah. I need to really believe, and then something will open to me. So if you adopt your ethics based on religious or dogmatic traditions, it doesn't have to be just religious. It can be, if we take politics, like a fascist state or collectivist state, and they are saying, so here's the truth, and whoever deviates from it is a traitor. Huh? And you're like, okay, you have to either take it or leave it, yeah, and pay the price. So that kind of ethical worldview is less reliable. Of course, on the superficially speaking, it can be more attractive. And this is why dictatorships work. When populists come and they make promises, people are like, oh, he'll come and fix everything. I love it. So I'll vote for this guy, yeah, or girl. And then it turns out it's not that easy, or it works the other way around. Yeah, prices continue rising up, etc., etc. Yeah. So on the other hand, if you adopt ethics that are more based on axioms instead of beliefs, then it can be more helpful for yourself and it can be more practical. Yeah, that's the life is about practical philosophy. Yeah. So I argue that if your ethics, like what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad, if you make those decisions based on axioms and kind of scientific worldview, then it will be more beneficial for yourself in the long run. Okay? And I use the word axiom. I'd like you to also understand what it is, what axioms are. So I'll try to explain it. An axiom can be any statement. For instance, a whole is always bigger than its part. That's an axiom. It's just a mental statement, yeah? But axioms can be proven right or wrong, and you can do it as many times as you want, whenever, wherever you want, and as many people as you may think of. So you can take a cake, for instance, and cut that cake into slices and compare one slice of the cake with the whole cake. Which is bigger? Yeah, the slice or the whole cake? Yeah, and you can play around the concept. So axioms are, statements which can be proven right or wrong. Dogmas, which are the basis of beliefs, you have to simply take them. You have to believe in them. And if you question a dogma, that means you're a bad believer. You're a bad Christian. You're a bad Muslim if you question the scriptures. And you could be killed, for questioning some religious concepts, the existence of God. In Iran, they have that crazy law that states, going against God, and they kill people for that. Saudi Arabia and crazy places like that. So also in fascism, in conservatism, like North Korea, you may not be religious, but if you go against the political party, if your haircut is different from the list of allowed haircuts. You know, if you drink Coca-Cola, which you cannot get in North Korea, yeah, you can be killed. So ethics and what's right, what's wrong, what's acceptable, what should be allowed and what should be banned, you know, those are all ethical questions. You know, should the government talk about gender, or it's every person's personal matter? You know, even from the perspective of liberalism, yeah, like Republicans speaking of, you know, smaller state, and state should not interfere with people, but then they're like, okay, state tells you that you can choose only between two genders, so state actually interferes into your gender and gender theory, yeah. So those are all ethical questions, and ethics matters because if you make the wrong choice, you will pay for that. If you support dictators, you may feel like, oh, it's, you know, that will not touch me. You know, I support this guy. Those, you know, pro-Republican voters who repent now and state that they are very sorry that they voted for Trump, and someone's wife is being deported, and someone's business is being shut down because those immigrants are not showing up, yes, like to construct new houses or to take care of the plants and crops in the fields, etc. So ethical questions and also political questions are important. Your ethics is directly affected with or from your sense of reality or metaphysics, and from your epistemology or knowledge. How do you know? So after ethics, we have politics. Ethics are actually more personal, like, shall I drink a chocolate or coffee? Shall I hydrate myself enough or not? Shall I take care of my body or not? Those are ethical questions. Or is it right to lie or not? If lying is acceptable in some cases, when, in what cases, you know? So ethics is more about your own personal life and how you decide to treat some other person, or you decide to behave yourself in a given situation, yeah. Politics is more about community life or communal life, yeah. Politics comes from yet another Greek word, polis. Polis is an ancient city-state. Athens, Sparta, Syracuse, and they had other city-states before, you know, countries were formed. There were those individual city-states, and also in other parts of the world, Uruk in the Middle East, yeah, some of the oldest cities on the planet. So polis or politics is about organizing our community life. Okay, as a community of people, shall we agree to a certain set of rules to make our public lives more comfortable? Like in a given neighborhood, shall we agree that stealing is not okay? That we are okay to pay some money for our roads to be repaired? Let's build a school and pay for that school so that, you know, our kids are safe and they can educate themselves, or teachers can educate our children, etc. So constitution, like, do we want to live as an individual neighborhood, as an individual city, or do we want to be a part of a bigger state, yeah, or country? Those are political questions. Death sentence, should it be okay to have it or not? It can be both an ethical question, like ethically, is it right? Is it okay to kill people in some situations or not? But apart from being an ethical question, it is also a political question. As a community of people, yeah, as a country, as a state, as a county or city, do we allow execution or not? That's a political question. So it's about, again, organizing our lives as a community of people. Yeah. Suppose there is a serial killer who is prone to killing people. Shall we pay for his life in prison, or what if he is pardoned by someone? What if he goes out again, he escapes the prison and kills more people? So is execution acceptable if the given person killed, let's say, more than one or more than two people in specific circumstances, like he was not threatened, etc., etc.? Those are political questions. It's about the organization of our community lives. Yeah. And politics is also important. Again, this live is about practical philosophy. Right now, the United States is a very good example. Yes, if you, I think they say that this quote came from the guy with the cigar, one of the prime ministers of the UK, Churchill, or maybe Roosevelt. I'm not sure. I think it is. Yeah, from Churchill. So the idea was, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. Or if you don't get involved with politics, politics will get involved with you. Something like that. Yeah. So even if you're like, oh, politics is not my thing, or politics is dirty, I don't care, I don't vote, my vote will not change a thing, you are still being affected by the votes of others. And also, I'd like to, speak of Russia as a very good example of what being apolitical can, result in. Uh, I know some Russian people. I grew up in a post-Soviet country, the Republic of Armenia, and I watched lots of stuff in Russian. Even on YouTube, I have a channel in Russian. So I kind of know that culture. Yeah. I didn't live in Russia and wouldn't like to, so I couldn't say I'm an insider, but I also had Russian speaking students, whom I taught English and so on. So the culture of being apolitical was also encouraged by the state, and all dictatorships, they are like that. Politics is not your concern, citizen. You're not smart enough, you're not good enough, it's too complicated, it's too dirty, just go about your daily life, buy your food, take care of your livelihood, and we will do the politics instead of you. So that mindset was both popular and also encouraged in the Republic of Armenia as well, by the way. Some politicians, Republicans, by the way, we have a Republican Party in Armenia too, yeah? Some Republicans were kind of encouraging that, in Armenia, that politics is too dirty, don't get involved in that. We'll take care of that. So now those apolitical people in Russia who are like, well, Putin is okay, he's fine, he's a nice guy, he'll take care of it. We don't see an alternative to Putin. Now they die in the fields of Ukraine. We don't know the real numbers. Some people say that it's about a few 100,000 of killed Russian soldiers, and other estimates are like more than 700,000 Russian soldiers were killed and wounded in this war. So we don't know the real numbers. But we do know that those people who are also sent to die in the fields of Ukraine are those ordinary apolitical young men or middle-aged men, yeah, who 5 or 25 years ago were like, well, Putin is okay. I'm not into politics. I will just vote for him and allow him to, continue his policies and stuff. So when you're apolitical, it can hit back at you real hard. And in Nazi Germany, similarly, there were Jewish people who were like, okay, we should become Jewish and we should just be good German citizens. We shouldn't concern ourselves with politics that much. Hitler won't be a threat, etc., etc. Yeah, but in the end, if you're apolitical and if not enough people stand up, and sometimes just standing up peacefully might not be enough if you are against an autocrat, or maybe a dictator, like in the Republic of Belarus, which is under the influence of Russia. It's a European state, yeah, geographically speaking. There were huge protests a few years ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember when was it, but it was beautiful. Like hundreds and thousands of young men, very civilized, beautiful. They would be very positive, waving flags and with balloons and not crushing things, just, protesting peacefully. But the protests were oppressed. Lots of people got arrested and beaten in prisons, in those detention centers. And unfortunately, it didn't work. In Russia, similarly. Hundreds and thousands of people sometimes, went and protested. But both it was, the movement sometimes didn't have momentum, and sometimes it was not even, they had the momentum, but they didn't have any clear agenda, shall I say, or not even agenda, maybe like they required, they said, okay, we want this guy to resign. Okay, this is the only thing we want. But they didn't have that toolkit, yeah, the toolkit through which they could achieve that. In the Republic of Georgia now also a pro-Russian government is there, and Georgians are protesting, but unfortunately they cannot, do much. Because they were very peaceful. Like the protests were very popular. Lots of people went out in those freezing days and nights, but it was very peaceful. And some, dictatorial regimes don't give a hoot about those peaceful protests for some time, and then later they just start, punishing the protesters. In my country, the Republic of Armenia, we actually managed to make our prime minister resign in 2018. That happened not only because of, how widespread the protests went, and they were very, very, popular, but also because the head of the movement had a very clear agenda, and on top of that, he had the toolkit. Like, okay, if this government doesn't do what I request, like resign, I will do this, this, and this. So in our case, in Armenia, it worked because slowly the momentum was building. At first, they were not numerous, but then the protesters got numerous, and I was skeptical myself. At first, I was like, okay, it's not gonna work. We already have been there, done that, on 10 years earlier, in 2008. Actually, we had a very bloody day, the 1st of March 28 was very bloody in Armenia. At least 10 people were killed by the government back then. And again, those were Republicans. So I don't want to maybe make it too stereotypical, but in some situations, beware of Republicans, okay? Yeah, there can be good Republican parties in some countries, of course, and good Republican, politicians, but, this is my experience with Republicans in my country. So when the government didn't resign at first, this opposition leader, who is now the prime minister, and in our country, the prime minister has the real power. The president is, His position is kind of more symbolic. He's just signing stuff, yeah, mostly. He was, the protesters would stop all the movement. Like at first, it was only in the city center of the capital, Yerevan, but then it spread. It spread almost like wildfires, and I also did that. At some point, I would get up and take a bench and would block the road in my neighborhood, which was not part of the downtown. And in all different cities, it also happened. People would stop the uh, traffic, and he would announce from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. we are going to stop all the motion, all the movement in the country. And that would happen, you know. So he had this agenda. And then school kids, university students, even the staff members, one part of the staff members of the airport, at some point, they also went on strike. They said, we're not working from noon to 6 p.m., for instance. We're on strike. We're not serving. We're not working. And so our thing worked because the movement had not only a clear agenda and what it wanted, but also the toolkit like, okay, if you don't give us that, here's what will happen that will hurt you. Yes, your businesses will be boycotted. All we were boycotting supermarkets and stuff, and the traffic will stop, factories, schools, nothing will work. And the guy, the head of the opposition back then, who is now the vice president, vice president, the prime minister, sorry, Nikol Pashinyan, he actually got arrested. But when he got arrested, the movement didn't stop. Actually, again, lots of people went out to the Republic Square. I was among them. I actually got angry when he got arrested. If I remember correctly, I didn't physically participate in those meetings, rallies, until the day he got arrested. That made me angry, and I went the downtown and participated in their physical, rallies on that day. And starting from that day, I would also, take the bench and close the roads and stuff. So they had to release him, actually. 1 or 2 days later, he was released, and then that surprising announcement came, and we didn't expect that, honestly. I didn't expect that it could happen, and it could happen so fast, on national TV, that the previous prime minister announced that he was resigning. So, yeah, and politics, is important, because if you don't, even if you don't care about politics, just like the previous branches of philosophy, politics is interested in you. Even if you're not interested in politics, politics is interested in you, in your money, in your gender. This is kind of unusual. Yeah, states telling you that these are the two genders you may have. I don't like that. I don't like, being ordered and controlled and commanded. And I don't like, a state telling me you can choose only between this and that. So you will be affected, and your relative, your loved person, someone you respect, a teacher, a minister at church, they can get deported, for example. Yeah. Even if you're like, well, I don't care about politics, let's see what comes, etc., etc. Or if we take the scenarios of Russia and other places like that, if you're like, I hate politics, it's corrupt, it's depressing, etc., etc., you can end up, in a war, and your husband, your child, your grandson, they could be sent to camps and they could get killed. Well, you also had this in the US, yes, the Vietnam War and the US troops in different countries across the globe, etc., etc. And last but not least, the fifth component of philosophy is called aesthetics. Another Greek word, aestheta, the sense of beauty. The word originally was about perceivable things, yes, what we can perceive, yeah, with our senses, what we can see, what we can hear, taste, touch, and smell. Yeah. What is beautiful and what isn't beautiful? Your sense of aesthetics, again, comes from your sense of metaphysics and ethics, and also it can come from your sense of your understanding of epistemology. Or I'll just speak in simpler terms in English, yes? What you consider beautiful can is based on what you think reality is, how you think you know what reality is, and what is good and what is bad according to you. See, some people like religious art, yeah? Some people will buy those crosses, and you can see those crosses in their living rooms and bedrooms, even, you know, and they will see it as beautiful. Cross, you know, the cross as a sign of death and rebirth and eternal life or whatever. So that is experienced as beautiful by people who are religious. And they really think that it's beautiful, it protects them, it's a nice story, yeah, it's a story full of promises for themselves, yeah, eternal life, life after death, etc., etc. And me, as an atheist, see, my aesthetics is different. I feel very uncomfortable when I see crosses. Because for me, it's a tool of execution. Like we have guns, we have echafauds, like those huge things in France with which they would cut people's heads off. Yeah, and we had crosses in ancient Rome. The Romans used crosses, yeah, and crucifixion as a means of punishment. They would punish criminals with crucifixion, you know. So when I see a cross, my mind is like, okay, this is the worship of death, and this is the worship of the culture of violence. Like, can you imagine someone having a little gun on their neck or a little échafaud, like that French thing, yeah, for execution? Or a mini electrical chair, you know, on your wall as a picture on the top of your building, etc., etc. To me, that's crazy, and I cannot perceive it as beautiful because my sense of reality and how I know it and what's good and what's bad for me is not religious. So aesthetics also matter, and you know those things kind of reinforce each other. For instance, if you live in a culture where aesthetically religious culture is everywhere, you have crosses, you have stories, movies, books, depictions in public places, preachers, you know, churchmen in schools and kindergartens, etc. So it means that the religious aesthetics is imprinted on your mind and on your consciousness. And from aesthetics, it can also affect your no, epistemology. Like you can learn more about religion. Oh, so who was that Jesus guy? Why crucifixion is important? Why do we have this saint's depiction, and why does the street bear the name of this saint guy? Yeah, etc., etc. You can watch those movies, read those books, learn those things at school, and you can. So your perception of the world and your sources of knowledge can also become more religious, okay, and mystical because of religious culture and aesthetics. So those components of philosophy, they kind of are interrelated and they affect one another. Yeah. And on the contrary, if you live in a very secular state, if religiosity is very low, yeah, the level of religion and religious and mystical thinking is not spread or propagated by the state, by the private sector, etc. So aesthetically, you won't see much of religious stuff around you, yeah? And therefore, that culture and that philosophy, the religious one, might not be reproduced and re-established century after century, generation after generation. And again, I just brought the example on religion, but it's not really only about religion. Like fascism, like the worship of a strong man or maybe a strong woman who will come and save us, from all the evils. In the far left, we also have those crazy things. Yes, we need a woman leader, and a woman will take care of everything. That's still very dogmatic. That's still very extremist. If you are mainly concerned with the gender of the person, yeah, it can end badly. You know. So aesthetics, what is beautiful and what is not, is also very important because it also affects your perception of reality, your sources of knowledge, your ethics, what you consider good and bad, evil and wrong. When you ethically, for instance, hear of, God punished those people because they are wicked, you can, conclude that punishing wicked people is completely okay. Yeah. And so violence and crime rates may increase, you know, because of, let's say, religious or conservative or extremist ethics. You see? So those questions are very important. And I'll end the topic of ethics with the following example from Ayn Rand, a philosopher, the author of Atlas Shrugged, one of her best-selling novels. So in one of her lectures, when she spoke of aesthetics, she gave the following example. Imagine there is a village, and she lived in 50s and 60s. She wrote those essays, yeah, back then in the 20th century. So those examples were very relevant in that context. So she's like, there is a small village, and this village is cut off from the world. The only means of communication with the external world for most of the villagers is the village cinema hall. And every week, or once or twice a month, they receive some movies, they get some tapes, and those movies are shown to the villagers. And now imagine two scenarios. In scenario one, the villagers are shown only how the world is, how wicked and wrecked and bad the world is. People are evil. Everything sucks. Life is not worth living. What will those people think of, the greater world? Yeah. And in scenario two, like they get movies that feature art, beauty, like, this woman scientist, Marie Curie, discovered this, or Da Vinci drew this beautiful stuff. Look at those high rises, the skyscrapers, yeah, those huge buildings. So people in the second scenario can love the world, yeah, and can get interested and excited about the world, yeah, and they can decide, okay, it's worth studying at a university or just traveling, yeah. Or if a foreigner or someone else comes to our village, it's worth talking to him, being friendly to him, yeah. In the first scenario, like, foreigners and people who are outside of our village are wicked and wrong, it's bad, we shouldn't talk to them, yeah, and we shouldn't strive for, stuff. I shouldn't think of studying at a university. I shouldn't aim at becoming a scientist, a TV host, an actor, etc., because the world is a bad place. See, these are aesthetics, and both aesthetics exist. Yes, in art we have different directions. Some artists like to uh, show mostly the negative sides of the life, yes? And we have right wing and left wing people who do that, yeah? Some feminists can be like, okay, see domestic violence, yes? Or gender based violence. And their art mostly maybe around that, yeah? Around trauma and how men are bastards, etc. Of course, all those things can be also true, but generalizing and, saying that art is about only speaking of problems and not possibilities, that's a choice, and that choice comes with some uh, consequences, yeah. So aesthetics matters. Um, Also, even in terms of political life, yeah. So aesthetics can affect on all the other branches of philosophy, yeah. And through aesthetics, we can make things better or worse. So yeah, this live is already 1 hour, going on for an hour, and this topic is not very easy to digest. So I tried to give you, the gist and the essence. Also in the gist, some essence. We covered the 5 branches of philosophy. I'll just review them, and I encourage you guys, before me reviewing it again, in the comments section, write what you remember. I covered 5 components of philosophy. So write down what components and what names you remember, either in Greek or in plain English, doesn't matter. Try to do that. Also, what does philosophy mean? I mentioned that at the beginning of the live. Yeah? Try to tell me what it means in plain English. And by the way, in my online course, Introduction to Practical Philosophy, after each lesson, I have an interactive quiz in which you answer questions. I ask those same questions and you have to choose the correct answer. You have to insert your own answer, drag and drop stuff. So it's very interactive. You can benefit from that. And of course, it's more beneficial. And it will cost you around $3 per month. So the price is very affordable as well, in case if you're interested. So yeah. Otherwise, feel free to benefit from my free content on this channel and elsewhere, and feel free to, and I actually encourage you to pay me back, yes? If you enjoy those lives, if you watch them or portions of those lives, send likes my way, yeah? And send comments. I get a few hundreds of views, but very few people send likes and very few people comment, although those questions are very important. It's about self-education, lifelong learning. So I encourage you to also pay back, and make this a win-win so that I also remain motivated and, give you some more interesting and useful content. So that's it for today. Thanks for your time. High five to y'all and see you soon. Bye bye.